Alrighty, everybody. A little bit of a spontaneous sort of podcast. We were trying to work out the right date for this. I think we moved it from it being on an actual weekend day to being Monday because things came up and so forth. But I was introduced to my guest this afternoon through a mutual friend of ours, Jacob Hamill of the band Labor 12, who are good friends of mine, really good people. And I couldn't be more thrilled, to get the opportunity to speak with Keri Simpson of Rotten Cotton Candy. And I almost keep wanting to say, for some reason, Rotten Apple Candy. And I don't know why my brain is doing that, but it is. Hopefully, I don't fumble that up during this talk. But really happy to have you on, Keri. I think this is going to be really fun getting to know about your band and you and the background of the band members, anything you have to say about all that. And hopefully me doing my part to get more people paying attention to your band, because listening to the songs that are out now, I love what I hear. I think you guys definitely have a winning formula and a winning sound to go the distance. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to you since we got the introductions out of the way, and kind of let you introduce yourself and your band and talk about how Rotten Cotton Candy came to be. So go ahead.
Thanks, Will, for having me and Ron Cotton Candy on your show, Liars Pacifist. Such an honor. And thank you, Jacob, my friend from Labor 12, for introducing us as well. You rock. So, yep, my name is Keri Simpson. I'm in the band called Rotten Cotton Candy. And yeah, I'm the front lady. I've been with this band since just this beginning of this year,
Wow.
actually, January 2025. It was I believe at the first weekend of the month. It was like maybe the 6th or 7th. I don't remember, but yeah, actually, Rotten Cotton Candy had been around since 2023. They were more punk driven, and the original singer Rebel, she wrote the lyrics for Candy Eyes, and they wrote that song together. And it didn't really come to light before the band split, and they started looking for a new singer. So I've known them since 2023 when I was with my previous band. Things didn't work out
Mhm.
in that band and everything. And I was without a band for a couple of years. Rob Noxious, he's the creator of the band Rotten Cotton Candy. At that time, it was spelled a little bit differently. It was Rotten spelled normal, and then Cotton was spelled Cotten, and then Candy. And he'd been like knocking on my door for like ever. Come on, Carrie, audition for it. Be in our band. I'm just like, I'm not ready. I'm not ready to join another band yet, quite yet. And then it's just like this past December 2012. It'd been a couple of years since I had performed, and I just got that itch. I was like, I'm not meant to be on the sidelines. I'm supposed to be on
Time
stage.
to get back out. Yeah.
I'm supposed to be on stage. I'm supposed to be singing. I'm supposed to be doing what I love the most, And I'm like, screw it. I'm gonna start looking for a band again, So, one of my girlfriends, Raw, she's in the band Midnight Murder Show and the
Mhm.
Nowhere Jets. She was like, hey, get on Vamper. It was like an app for musicians. It's almost kind of like Tinder. It's like you
I
swipe
was
left
gonna
or
say, yeah.
it's like, so I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll give it a shot. And I had met a dude, we were gonna play some blues stuff, and then I had another friend hit another person off of Vamper hit me up, and then Rob with Ron Cont Candy, he had hit me up too. So I literally had three meetups in one week, to meet up with these different guys and these different musicians to see if which way I want to go, because I was like, I want to do this.
Uh-huh.
And then so Rob, he was like, come on, Carrie, just come and sit in on our jam for 30 minutes, just 30 minutes, and see if you like us. And I'm like, okay, because we'd been friends for a minute on Facebook. And I'm like, okay, what kind of friend would I be if I didn't go sit in,
Right.
just listen,
Yes.
give him the chance? And I'm like, screw it, I don't want to be that asshole. so, so I went in and I listened, well, the day before I actually went in, he sent me he sent me some lyrics. So I saw him. I'm like, okay, I thought I'm just gonna listen, and here he's like, he's already sending me lyrics. I'm like, and so what do I do naturally? I'm like, oh well, he sent me that, so I guess I'm gonna listen to the song and try.
Yeah, yeah,
and then so, and then so I did. I had fun with it. And when I had a lot of fun with the guys and everything, it just felt supernatural, like my homeboys, like my
mhm,
friends, like the friends like you would have back in the day before you have to worry
right,
about a bunch of creepers and stuff, you know what I mean? And then so they invited me back the next week, and I'm like, at first I was like, I don't know, because I was still debating on jamming with this other dude, and I was kind of trying to weigh my decision. It's always either or with me, black or
mhm,
white. It's always a drastic or not. It's just like sometimes there's no middle grounds, and that's something I've been trying to learn lately, is trying to find that balance and maybe try to do two things at one instead of one or the other. So I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna kind of ride the wave right quick. I'm gonna see if I can see which one I like better, and
right,
still jam with both people without trying to make a jump into a major decision yet, just to kind of feel it out. And then so I went back with Rock Cotton Candy and jammed again. Had more fun this time. The next week went back in. At this point we're doing like on the Sundays. And then I just kept going back and then kept going back. And then Rob was like, so are you gonna and okay, I was like, all right guys, all right, this is how it's gonna be. If I'm gonna be y'all's vocalist, we got to do some rebranding. We got to shift some things around. We got to a new kind of a new image, a new logo, a new kind of, it's just like I have a totally different sound in my
uh-huh,
vocals from the previous singers. So naturally, it's just like they don't have a lot of recordings out there. So I wanted to go ahead and let's go get these recordings done. So, and since they really didn't have that awesome song that Rebel wrote lyrically with Rotten Candy at the time. She really didn't get to be released as Rotten Cotton Candy.
right,
She had used that song and released it under a different band name. And I'm like, it's good. I'm just gonna go in, and we retracked my vocals for that song, and it kicks major ass. And she wrote an awesome song, and
yeah.
hopefully one day everything will be on the mend. But yeah, she's a cool chick actually. But Rock Cotton Candy isn't the I'm fumbling
You
now.
see what I
The
mean?
Candy Eyes, that Candy Eyes song
Right.
is awesome. So that was the first track that I recorded with Rotten Rotten
It gets you, it really does.
Rotten Cotton Candy. And then so we had I'd been talking about jamming with you know online with my friends and everything. I'm like, okay guys, I think I found a band and wah.
Right.
And then one of my friends, Medusa, she does shows with Coven Underground and some other. She was like, I have an opening for May 3rd. She was like, let's make it your show. And this is before we even had a full set. Rotten Cotton Candy had a full set. We had just recorded retracked Candy Eyes. And you know what? I'm like, we pulled the trigger. We're like, you know what? Let's do it. We'll be
Yeah,
ready
why
by
not?
May 3rd. We didn't even have a set ready to go. And we're like, we're gonna do this. Let's make this happen. So it was for that time it was gun ho, gun ho, gun ho. Let's finish. Let's go in and record another song. So we made this show for our single release party for another one of the songs that we all wrote together, and it has a different sound than Candy Eyes. Candy Eyes kind of has a punk rock vibe to
That's,
it,
very
but
punk.
this new song, Bleed, kind of has like a grunge new metal, alternative metal
Mhm.
type of feel to it. So each song that we do kind of differentiates from the last. It's like there's not one set sounds. And the new EP that we're working on was because the drummer Rob Noxious, not only does he drum, but he plays on guitar too, and he writes lyrics. So he had written a song called Rock and Roll and another one called Punk Cartel. So and another one called Under a Spell. So the EP that we're recording next is going to be having a live feel recording. Still going to sound awesome and
I
sound
love
cool,
that.
but it's going to be have a live feel, so where you can feel that kind of rawness and everything. And that EP is going to be called Rock and Roll, and it's going to be the three songs. It's going to be Rock and Roll, Punk Cartel, and Under Your Spell. All lyrics were written by the drummer Rob Noxious. So I was like, let's give this new EP. It's kind of like our little, it's like our little crown for Rob, our drummer, because he's not only a drummer but he writes music too. But so when we recorded Rock and Roll from the previous singer and Punk Cartel, I have a more raspy voice, than they did. So, like a couple of my friends, they were like, "You remind me of what's her name? The chick from the Distillers." Uh,
Mm,
uh,
I haven't thought of them in a while, so I can't
yeah,
remember.
but somebody had compared me to her, from one of the first songs, Punk Cartel, and I'm like, dude, she's rad, thanks, and so yeah, this next album is like an EP of the rock and roll one, so that one's gonna be fun too. But yeah, as far as Rock Cotton Candy, the band name goes. Rob, he's the mastermind. He's the one that created this band. He's the one that came up with the band name. He wanted something that sticks with people, that that
Yeah.
people will remember, and people definitely do.
Yeah, I would also say before you continue there that when I was told the name of your band by Jacob, I wasn't sure what I would be expecting sound wise. I thought to myself, is this going to be kind of a little bit theatrical? I did think maybe punk rock kind of oriented a little bit, but I wasn't sure though. And then the first song I listened to was obviously Bleed. I'm like, oh, okay. So this is like what you were saying, kind of more of a hard rock, new metal sort of grungy style. And
Hmm.
I wasn't expecting your vocals either. So a couple of things went through my head when I first heard you, and I was like, okay. And I'm sure you know these names, but and maybe people might disagree with this, but I draw the distinction because of the raspiness of your voice and just a powerful, commanding kind of way you use it. But Alana Miles, she does the song Black Velvet. You kind of made her come to mind a little bit, and in some ways, even Joan Jett, and then a little bit of Maria Brink from In This Moment. But you're still you. You
Hmm.
sound like Keri. You don't
Yeah.
sound, but those people came to mind. But your voice fits so good. You do the punk really well. You do the harder edge stuff really well. And so I'm thinking, okay, what else can she do? So this EP that's coming out, I'm looking forward to hearing, if there's other ways you use your voice. But because I hear in those two songs that I've heard that you do have other sides of your voice that maybe we haven't heard yet. Am I
Hmm.
right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. And so the rock and roll EP, it has has Punk Cartel, it's very punky. Then we have rock and roll that has a kind of a rock and roll Joan Jett type of vibe. And Under Your Spell kind of is in the same note structure too, but it has more of a kind of a soulful thing. So my voice, I've been singing ever since I was in
Mhm.
since childhood in choir. It's like started off like before we went to in like elementary school, there's music class, there's not choir
Right.
unless it's like all city choir, which you have to audition for. But even back before then, you know when we used to go to church when we're kids with the parents and stuff, we'd be doing church choir and stuff. I think that's where it started. And then a music class when we moved to Mesquite in 1990. um, um, they were doing auditions for all city choir,
Right.
and then my parents put me in that, and then you had to do 30 seconds of the Star Spangled Banner. And then so that's when I was like I believe I was in fifth grade. So I had been in choir since fifth grade all the way up to like maybe 11th grade up in high school, and was in talent shows. I was in middle doing solos for school coordinations, doing Whitney Houston.
Oh,
I was doing solos for Santa Baby and the Christmas play in high school. And eventually I was like, I want to be a rock star. And remember my dad and my stepmom asking me what I wanted for Christmas when I was 16. I was like, I want a guitar. My dad was like, an acoustic, and I'm like, no, an electric.
I want to be loud.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember, it's my stepmom, she's like, don't quit your day job, and it's just like you can, and that's exactly true. Because being a
Yeah.
musician isn't a very expensive hobby.
It is, and it's kind of like a luck of the draw kind of thing too. You either make it or you don't, or there's maybe even a middle ground there where
You die
you do
trying.
that, or you do enough where you could you could maintain doing it, but you got to have your day job too, sort
Yeah.
of thing. So
So I finally got me a good, decent day job. So,
right, yeah,
so I can afford the things and actually live.
yeah,
but, but yeah. And then that's when I was like, I'm gonna start my first band, with some of my high school girlfriends. And we were like, that's when like Corn, it was like at its
hmm
primo and Deftones, and then right when Limp Bizkit came out with $3 Bill, y'all, and then
classic.
and then it was like Manson was in its prime, White Zombie. It was
Yes,
such a good time for music. It was
I
such a good
missed
time for
it.
music, and new metal is like still to this day one of my faves. And people talk,
Absolutely,
and
I
like
champion that.
and then like it's so funny because the other day I was listening to Spotify and they'll create those day lists for you, and
hmm
it said dad rock. I'm like, what the hell is dad rock? And I listened to it, and I'm like, oh, this is the rock that I listen. This is what
Yeah,
I
yeah.
listen to. I'm not even
I
a dad or a mom. Okay,
I
whatever,
don't
bro.
understand. I don't understand calling it dad rock either. Is it because of the people that were, in their teens when that was big or whatever? Is it because a lot of us are dads or moms now that they call it dad or mom rock? It's not typical music for a lot of dads or moms to listen to because it can be pretty abrasive, pretty heavy, pretty aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
So but no, I'm there with you. New metal's definitely my favorite genre or subgenre, whatever you want to call it, for an offshoot of a metal style. I
Yeah.
grew up with the Korn and the Static X and
Yes.
Edema and Linkin
Yep.
Park. A band called Simon Says. I'm not sure if you're familiar, but they're great. I recommend checking them out. Just bands like that. So I'm right there with you.
Hmm.
That's the music that I listen to this day, and I'm 38. So
Yeah. And then so during that time period, it's like me and my girlfriends were like, we're gonna create a band, and it's gonna be called Enchanted Nut House. And I had drew us like in Corn. You remember when the t-shirts? It was like the blue t-shirts for Corn, and it was like in the anime style.
yes,
It was
yeah,
like I drew us like that,
uh-huh.
and it was like Enchanted Nut House. And then I don't know, I think we tried to get some instruments, and I think nobody else was able to get instruments, so we still had to click. But then like yeah, then we just became like the stoner chicks.
Hey, nothing wrong with that.
That was back in the day. But then but yeah, I mean like I didn't have my first official band until like it was like I think it was like 20, or was it 19, 20, 21? I don't remember, somewhere around there. That was Lost Lust though.
hmm
And that went from originally my old keyboardist, me and her, we had met at a karaoke joint, and oh, she was cool, and I thought she was cool, and we're like, yeah, and the next thing you know, let's start a band together. And this is like when we just met at karaoke, and like, yeah,
Yeah.
what do you play anything? Yeah, I play the keyboard. Okay, yeah, we're in a band. And then so we started we became like best friends, and we were creating music, and at that time. It was kind of more gothy. It was kind of more, bless you. It was kind of more of a keyboard esque, and
Okay.
back in the day I didn't know what to call it, but I guess you would kind of call it like dark wave. Then so I've always been on the goth side, and I've always been on the metal side, and I've always had a lot of friends that were skaters and punks, but I didn't dive too much into the punk scene until like my later years and
Yeah.
stuff.
No, I hear you there. Punk and me, since we're on the subject of bringing up punk, it's still kind of a genre that I love. plenty of bands in the punk genre. Most of it's the
Mhm.
older stuff, but a lot of it still to this day doesn't click with me, and doesn't have anything to do with not thinking it's any good. It's just
Yeah.
there's just something about it, right? But at the same time, a lot of what I listen to has a lot of punk influence, though.
Yeah.
So I like it, but I want it to have another kind of vibe, I guess,
Hmm. See,
So,
I'm more of rock. I'm more of a rock chick. I do
mhm.
have some punk influences and some punk vibes, but I wouldn't call myself punk because of that's just like you calling goths don't like to call themselves goths, or it's just like in like other people, it's just like you can't say that you're this because you're not. And then if you start calling you this, you're a poser. You're not a
Yeah,
no, you're not a punk. I'm a
yeah,
punk. I'm a bigger punk than you. It's just like you are a bigger punk the way you acted. No, just kidding.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
but
I get
but
it. Kind of like if you say your favorite punk band is Green Day, and they kind of look at you like that's not real punk. It's like, well, it is punk. It's just not the punk that you're used to.
yeah, yeah, that
You
would be
know?
more of their little pop punk.
Yeah.
That
Yep.
Yeah, everybody has an opinion.
Yep.
Just-
Everybody. But that's really cool. You got a lot to you as far as your influences and kind of the stages of your life as being a musician. Transitioning from bands to other bands, like projects, I guess you would call them, and just that's growth. Like as a musician to get to where you are now.
Mhm.
I want to talk a little bit more about your voice though, because I love hearing when male, female, whatever, just a voice that is. So tell me if this makes sense to you.
Yeah.
Music from back in like the 80s or maybe you could say mid 70s and stuff. You hear those singers from that era that just really blow you away. Like they got a lot of control in their voice and it's just real natural, kind of raw, and they make it sound easy, right? But they've worked for it, obviously. They might have had the natural talent, but they developed it.
Yeah.
You remind me of singers from back in like the 80s with your voice. You sound modern, but you remind me of those singers where if you were born in that period, well, not in that period, but born to grow up in that period and have a band in like the 80s, you're probably a person that people will be talking about today of being like, man, her voice is just so amazing. I wish I had her kind of voice.
Oh.
And I don't say this just to flatter you. It's just I'm genuinely impressed by what I heard with the two songs from Rotten Cotton Candy. I just wasn't expecting that voice. Not to say I was expecting that you wouldn't have a voice. It's just I was pleasantly surprised and impressed. Um, and you talked about your background for singing. You did like some choir stuff. There's the church things. What else kind of helped shape your voice though, from being a kid up until now? Besides stuff like that, like maybe you could say other influences. Touch on that a little bit more, or even things that people wouldn't expect to inspire and influence a singer. You have any of that you can talk about?
Well, I think that passions, like, other than like choir and stuff like that, as far as aspirations, sometimes you feel that you're destined to do certain things in
Mhm.
life. And I definitely feel that singing has been one of my gifts. It's something that my mom's been nurturing ever since I was a kid, and she just kept watering it and watering it. So
Go
my,
mom.
my mom was a very big inspiration for that, because she always pushed me towards that. She always like, I think you would do better if you do this, but it's just like, but then when, at first time I did karaoke was with my mom. I was 17,
Mhm.
and she used to pay me like $5 every time I would sing Foolish Games by
Oh,
Jewel, because I would,
yeah.
in high school I had that album Pieces of You, and she would hear me singing that album in the room, and she came in one day and she was like, it's so beautiful. She's like, and then she would have friends over, and she would pay me $5 every time I would sing that song for them in front of people, and even at karaoke and everything. So I eventually, over time, I just started doing karaoke and more karaoke, and then I would start winning karaoke contests. I would start winning money I remember I won a grand prize. It was like $275
Ooh,
singing Torn by Creed. And there was another time I won runner up singing Material Girl by Madonna. So totally different spectrums.
very
but
different.
then but then, it's just like I would do karaoke a lot in between bands, because I love just going up and singing and just performing in front of people. And eventually, it's like back in the day, you would feel, you know, some people might feel that stage fright of getting up on stage, and some people don't even want to do karaoke because that's crippling for them. For me, it's always felt eventually over the years, it just felt natural. And then
Mhm.
just like, people, I haven't played in a couple of years. Are you nervous? And I'm like, no, not really. I'm excited. Let's go. So it just feels natural for me, and it's just like that right there is one of my inspirations in itself. Is, it's just like just something that inside of you won't let you quit.
Yeah.
Sometimes you feel like you want to quit, but sometimes there's just like, not yet. It's just like, I'm 40, this year I'll be 44, I'm 43. And it's just like, I'm like, you know what, I got to do this. It's just like, it's now or never. And what's cool about Rotten Cotton Candy is it's like a four-generational band. 4 year,
Yeah.
it's just like we have George Chavez, he's in his 20s. Me, I'm in my 40s. Keri Ingram, the bassist, he's in his 50s. And my drummer, Rob, don't hate me, Rob, he's in his 60s, but he will tell you otherwise.
He kicks ass. He
Yeah,
kicks
he
ass.
does. He's in his 60s and he's like, I'm like,
Yeah.
whoa, bro, you're
Yeah.
awesome.
I hear the power in his playing for sure.
But yeah, it's, as far as other inspirations, like, it's like, when I started singing, like when in high school, when I was like really like, okay, I'm gonna be a rock star. And I was getting a lot of inspiration from Kitty.
Oh man.
Kitty was like one of my,
Yes.
Kitty was one of my faves. Alice in Chains was one of my
Hmm.
faves. Maynard Keenan's one of my
Yep.
faves. Trent Reznor. I had so many like, bands that I was drawing inspiration from. That gave me kind of what my style is too, and in this moment as well. But I've heard people compare me to in this moment. I've heard people compare me to Ginger. I've heard people compare me to Kitty, to Joan Jett, but Alice in Chains, I love me some Alice in Chains though. There's just something about that dual singing harmony that it's just like you'll
Yes.
hear sometimes these days. But if you do hear it, it's usually the harmony, the second track that's turned down way low, like on a track. It's just like
Hmm.
you can't hear that harm. I
Yeah.
just that something about a good harmony that melds between two vocalists, and they have that connection. It's a total different connection as it is, but
Yes.
it's
Very much.
something about when two singers can just get on that same wavelength. It's great. I
Yeah.
love.
I would say that Lane and why am I blanking his name? Jerry Cantrell.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a band that did it better than
Mm-mm,
those two. Those
mm-mm.
two voices together was just like magic, you know. And the nice thing is Robert Duvall, the guy that's with them now, he's really great too. And
Yes.
obviously, if he sees this, I doubt he will see this, but if he does see this, I love you, Robert. But nobody's going to say that he's as good as Lane because nobody will be. He's one of the most iconic, grunge, metal, whatever singers you want to call him in the last 30 years.
Hmm.
He was just that good. He was very troubled. He struggled a lot, but man, what a talent. So I definitely agree with you with the harmonizing thing with those two. It's just you kind of just set and you just close your eyes and you just listen to it.
And that's exactly what happened when the first time I seen Alice in Chains with the new singer is, I went with one of my good friends, and I just closed my eyes and I just listened to it, and it was just so good.
Yeah.
It is just so, it was very reminiscent. It made me felt it almost felt like it was like back in the day kind
Yeah.
of type of thing. He does such a good job.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I don't know if you're very big on Linkin Park, but do you have a take on their new singer? Because that's a very polarizing debate right now, still with whether or not they should have done or not. I think she's pretty good, but do you think that works as well as it as Alice in Chains and how they pulled off their comeback?
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie to you. I haven't heard much. I
Okay,
haven't heard much of the new singer.
all right, that's fair enough. It's she's good, but it definitely it takes a little getting used to. But getting back to Rotten Cotton Candy, though, I was just curious about that little blurb.
Yeah.
Um, so we talked about Candy Eyes. How much of Bleed did we get into? I think we mentioned it and touched on a little bit. Did we get into a little bit any of like maybe meanings behind that song? How or if there's another direction it was going to take, and then it just became something else during the process of it being written and recorded. I love hearing about stuff like that. I nerd out to it, pretty hardcore.
So actually on Bleed, when we originally started writing it, that was one of the um, first three songs that I started writing with them. um, there was like three songs that we were writing simultaneously together, and it's like I didn't quite finish one, but we'd start practicing the other. I started getting ideas. I started writing to that, and then Bleed was one of the first ones that came together. I think more more quickly,
Right.
but it was like it was just like something about the chorus. It's like these lyrics were pop in my head. How do they bleed when their hearts are rotten? So it's just like, okay, I'm getting like these zombie-esque feels to it. I get a lot of, I have a lot of zombie songs. My mind's out there. But it's just like this was also the time during there was a lot of the California was having the fires,
Oh,
and Texas was getting a lot of that dust storm that was coming up with the red dirt everywhere. And then I was starting to get these, then the two ideas started kind of colliding together. And then I started seeing like, I started envisioning like these like zombies like in this red, like in the distance it's smoky but it's like a red haze, like dusty, and it's
right.
like a like they're walking in the distance, but people don't want to be noticed by them. They're like in the distance, and so it's kind of like a very zombie-esque song. But the way it was kind of written, it was written a little bit differently at first. We had to kind of recompose it a little bit,
Right.
because when George first started writing it, I believe the chorus was the verse and the verse was the chorus. It swapped around. I'm like, no, 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 that's not what I'm seeing here. I think it sounds better if we do this. And so we started flipping around, and then I was like, no, we need. And then I was like, we need some kind of build up. And then I'm like, oh, we need this big break. We need this big break. We need this pause where the music drops out, and we just started recomposing the song together. And then when we went in and recorded it with Gers, man, Alex Gers, he's amazing. Producer. But that song, it was a lot harder to record than Candy Eyes. That was for sure. It was more vocally straining for me, but because some of these scream, it's just like at some points my vocals would start, because these screams can be so harsh on your voice.
Mhm.
It start you want to get it start my brain goes from one place to the next. So sometimes you will hear me starting to ramble, and I won't make no sense. I'll be like freaking talking gibberish. Like, where's her mind going? We don't
I just
know. This
I
is
I'm the,
Keri.
I am the 100% same way. Since you bring that up, I'm the same way. My wife doesn't watch these interviews anymore because she gets embarrassed for me when I do it. So I feel for you. I know exactly what you mean.
She can't even finish a damn sentence.
Yes.
No, but what was I saying?
Your screams and stuff for bleed.
Yeah, so they will start. Man, it started getting so harsh, and then you'll have to re-record and everything. But that it took a while to record, but it ended up really cool. It ended up
I
really cool.
definitely
We did a
agree.
good job.
Yeah, of
Love that
those
song.
yeah, those two songs, that's definitely my favorite. I'm always probably going to lean, I'd say 97% of the time, to a song that's structured that way over a song that's more of like a punk kind of edge. No real reason besides just my preference. But um, but that's really cool to hear about. I love that you guys really kind of took a moment to step back a little bit, and you being vocal about no, this do it this way because this way is a better way for this to work and just kind of flow.
Just
Um,
restructure it a little bit.
right. Because some bands will have that habit of but we got to get something out though. So why don't we just say that this is good enough
Uh-uh.
and send it on its way? In my opinion, don't cut a corner because you're going to feel more payoff and feel more proud of something if you just take your time and let it be cultivated or however you want to say it. And eventually it's going to get to that point where it's ready and you're going to know it's ready.
Mhm.
With Bleed, there's nothing in that song that when I'm listening to it where I stop or I pause it and say, okay, hold on, they could have done this part a little bit differently. Because in my opinion, there's all parts of that song every second came out exactly how it should have.
Thank you. Thank you
Yeah,
so
and I don't know if the song that Jacob was talking about that he was going to ask you if I could hear is a song that's not out yet, or if he meant it was Bleed or
I think
not.
it was Bleed.
Yeah, okay. I just want to make sure about that because what I'm going into with this is it sounds like the other songs are going to be very different from each other sound wise.
Yeah, and there's like some of them are gonna have some of that punky feel, and some of them are gonna have kind of like there's another song because some of these songs that I'm bringing to the table are ones that I wrote like 20 years ago that never shown light, that never had music for them. Sometimes I call these kind of songs like either homeless songs or homeless lyrics. It's something that you started to write in your head. You hear a melody, you start writing these lyrics, but you don't have music behind it. I have a lot of music like that. So it's awesome when I can bring my older music to the new music that they write. And I'm like, I have something that fits perfectly for this. I've done that like maybe 2 or 3 times with them
Uh,
already. There's another song that we did called Under 21.
okay.
That song is like leading up to me partying it up in my 20s and getting in trouble with the law and having fun and partying, woo!
Got to
And
get that out of
then
your system.
and then but then that one's kind of like a party song. It's kind of got like this swingish vibe during the verse, but then total punk like in the chorus. I'm a big fan of genre meshing, I like to call it.
Good.
It's
Yeah.
having different, just I don't like to stay in a box. I feel like
Good. Good.
too many bands are doing
Yeah.
that. They
Yeah.
have, okay, this is the sound what everybody's doing.
Yeah.
So if we want to get popular like everybody else, we gotta have this structure. We gotta have this tonality. We gotta have this style. You're being too much. You're conforming too much, and you're not
Yeah.
being how your voice wants to sound, how
Yeah.
you want to sound. And
Yeah.
when everybody follows their own sounds and is able to put it together, that's when you're able to really shine, I believe, and also not be afraid of experimenting and doing different kind of sounds like I said, genre meshing. I'm really big into that. I love singing, I love screaming. I don't like screaming all the time. I like to use screaming as accents, as climaxes during a song, as your passion points, as you build up and like your
Yeah.
Hulk
Yeah.
moments, because if you're capable of doing more than just screaming, then you should be able to highlight those as well instead of just doing one thing. And some people, I feel, they only do one thing is to impress other people, or they want to be
Yeah.
cool, and
Yeah.
I'm gonna be a screaming all the time to show you how big my nuts is.
I agree with you.
And
That's a
I'm like,
hundred.
you know what,
Yeah.
everybody else is showing their nuts and I can't understand what the hell they're saying.
I agree with you. That's a soapbox that when I get up on it, eventually someone tells me to shut up because I get so passionate about telling people it's kind of one of those things like I don't make music obviously, but I feel like I'm still right when I say that what's the point in making music when you're making it to appeal to to the same people that say likes Bring Me the Horizon or that likes Godsmack or that likes Metallica if you do the thrash metal thing. They're not so much thrash these days, but you know what I mean. Or stuff like that. I feel like it kind of defeats the purpose of creating music because they could say until they're blue in the face that this is who we are as a band, but I say that that's BS because from my perspective, you're doing it like you said because you want to be conformist and you want to kind of get some of that band's fan base to pay attention to you as well because you sound similar to them.
Mm-hmm.
No, throw that out of your box. Step
Mm-hmm.
outside that box itself and truly make the music that you want to make. And don't concern yourself with striking it with luck and getting big. I just don't see the point in doing it that way. Just be authentic.
Yeah, for sure. And like another song that I was telling you about, like that was right in my 20s. Another one that I did was "Pull Me Through." That one's about like depression and like on the
Mhm.
brink of that point, because I did go through self harm and depression a lot when I was in my young years, and
Right.
so
Right.
that's what that song is about, and being able to pull yourself through. But that one has more of has that soft spoken kind of Deftones, kind of old Deftones, kind of whimsical, not whimsical, like a sound, like it's bordering like vocal, as far as vocal style. I feel like it encaptures my Chino and Maynard inside a little bit, with a little bit of Perfect Circle and
Yeah.
some of a
You
little bit of Deftones.
you're teasing me with that because I'm a huge Deftones fan. I love a Perfect Circle too, but Chino is like a top 5 guy for me in Deftones.
Oh,
You
yeah,
know,
he's one of my husbands.
yeah.
Oh,
My
but
wife, when he's still doing crosses, but
I love
I
crosses.
yes, I love that throwback retro sound that they kind of do. But I took her to see crosses, and
Jealous.
we were right at the guardrail, and I was jealous of this. Okay, I was very jealous. I kind of moved away from her a little bit when this happened, but we both had our hands up. He reaches down and he touches her hand, and she's like, ah! And she's like, my head. I'm like, I know, I saw, and I just kind of do this. I cross my arms. I'm just like, that should have been my hand. Yeah, but yeah, I feel you. I want to hear that song now, like really bad.
I think there might be a clip of it. There might be a clip of it from a live from one of from our show from last month. But I know that sometimes when people do the lives, Facebook will be like, "You have this amount of time until we take it down," and then sometimes they'll just take it down and then you can't access it anymore.
Yeah.
So that's the only thing that sucks about that. But I think I may have saved it. But somebody had did a I think it was Medusa. She had did a live capture of part of the song from "Pull Me Through." But yeah, that definitely is going to be on the album that we're going to be doing after the EP. But yeah, we want to get an album done too. So whew, baby
Speaking of
steps.
the album, that band that you said you had, Enchanted Nut House, for some reason that sounds like a really good album title too.
Yeah,
you know,
Enchanted Nails.
but that's really cool. I'm really looking forward to that. So we've covered, an EP that you're going to be putting out. You're mentioning about a full album, which that's going to be really great. Um, so do you have an opinion about these days? It's a lot different than from even 10 years ago with distribution, right? Um, I like to cover this and get different perspectives because I feel like attention spans with people these days is a lot different. And a lot of bands are going with that. Well, voice crack there. That's weird. A lot of bands are going with the format of single releases versus doing the full album thing. Um, what do you think about that because of the industry going through the changes it is and how people consume their music? Um, are full albums still something that you think are viable in this day and age? Because I feel like they still are.
Yeah, I think they can be and everything, but I think right now with the financial things, the economy things. Right now, I honestly, like in our boat, I feel like maybe it's just based off of what the musician can do at that
Yeah,
moment, maybe what they have access to, maybe
right.
funds, maybe that's what they can afford at that moment, and but singles do seem to be a hot commodity. They come out a lot more frequently
Oh
than
yeah,
albums do, that is for sure. And we do definitely want to do an album. That might be something that we would like raise some money to do on, like, say, some kind of package promotion or something like that. Because if you want a really really good production artist and producer and sound, like, it's going to be so expensive, and
Very much.
you're going to have to save up some money for a while. And and as an artist, you're really not even making money. You're spending more money into making the music as it is than really getting anything out of it. I mean, like, unless you're selling your merch like hotcakes. And we've technically, okay, we've had two shows so far, but one technical. Okay, so our very first one was the Deep Ellum Community Arts Fair. That was a free thing, but we were like, exposure, let's do it.
Yeah.
And we sold 7 shirts at there, so we made, it was $25 a pop. And then our single release party, I consider that our actual first official debut. We sold another 7, so we're getting some merch money here. We're getting some merch money here. Usually that goes back into the merch and everything.
Yeah.
But we definitely want to do an album, that's for sure. But I think it's with as the economy is, it's more, things are more expensive. And I think it really falls on the musicians of what they can financially have access to,
I agree with you. You got to do it smart. You don't do it because you want it's a dream to get it done, because you'll get in a hole that way. So
hmm
I agree with you. Do it in the way that makes the most sense, that won't put you in a position that jeopardizes the future of the band that you're in at the time. And because longevity is something that most people in bands, they want. I've maybe some of them see an end game in the future, like what they see the wind down of their career might look like. But in the moment where things are fresh and things are still kind of young, don't get too ahead of yourself, right? I know it's exciting and it feels good, your adrenaline's going, but definitely do it in a way that's smart, though, because if you want to keep going, don't derail it. You know,
hmm
so
And,
single release is definitely maybe the smarter route to go for a lot of bands these days. So
I have no, I'm not opposed to it. And we're doing our, like I said, the EP. We're doing it with a different producer this time. It's a little bit more cost effective. It's a lifestyle too, and it's gonna sound really cool too. So, I mean,
I love that.
we're gonna do the EP with a different person. We may have a different person actual do the final mixes. But it's like we want to get our music out there. And sometimes, we don't have a band manager, we don't have a publicist, we don't have any of that. So we're all doing this as a collaborative together. And it's just like we work together, we have open communication. So we want to we all want to have fun doing this. We all want to be able to be ourselves. Have fun is the most important thing, but also,
Yes,
when one is taking a little bit more weight than the others, then have help relieve that pressure off the other person and help them as well. So that's what I like about these guys too. We all scratch each other's backs.
that's very good to hear, because there can be a lot of dysfunction, because having a band is not easy. I've heard that a lot. It's not easy. There's a lot of work that goes into it. You'll fight, you'll have disagreements, but it's just part of it.
Mm,
But it takes knowing how to work through it and communicating, and things usually end up okay. So that's good. I love hearing that that's the relationship that your band has with each other, that you work with each other, you listen to ideas, problems, and you sort it out. That's
mhm.
going to speak volumes in the long run.
Yeah,
um
leading up to that single release party, because not only was a single release party, but we were rebranding the whole band.
yeah, yeah,
So we were having a lot of promotions, a lot of videos, and I was learning a lot of hats, roles, and learning how to do these videos, creating these videos, these flyers, all these things. And and they're like, Keri, take it easy, take it easy. I'm like, no, you don't understand. If we don't do this, then and it's just like, then it's just a fake, nobody knows about you if you just
right,
let
yeah.
it go. Then how, if you don't put that pressure on yourself, then how is anybody ever going to hear you? if you don't put it out to the world. So I'm like, so that initial push for that first show was chaos. It was chaos. I thought I was going to lose myself, lose my head a couple of times, but Keri, my bassist, it's been a good big help, and and they all been a big help, honestly. And so so this next show has been, is I feel like it's going to be easy riding, because we got that initial show, that big one out of the way. But yeah, our next show is this Friday,
Oh, very
uh,
nice.
June 6th, 2025, this Friday at Haltom Theater in Haltom City. It's gonna be the Slammin' Silly Goose Summer Story. We're playing with what, Night School Ninjas, Moonfallen. We are Aria, and there is another band that just added on to the bill. I don't have it in front of me.
That's okay.
But yeah, it's gonna be this Friday, so I'm excited about that too.
Speaking of live shows, this is going to lead up into eventually wrapping up the interview with Rotten Cotton Candy. I almost said Rotten Apple again. Um, what's the kind of energy that you hope the band brings to the stage when you perform live? I understand there's been 2 shows so far. One is the official show, you said. What's the goal for Rotten Cotton Candy when they hit the stage? What do you want to be the number one thing that people take away from seeing your band perform?
I want people to move. I want to and capture their attention the entire time. I don't want them to get bored. I want them to not want to go out and smoke a cigarette on the
Right.
patio. I want them to stay in here, and I want them to not want to pull away and go to that bar, even though we want those bar sales. But at the end of the day, I just want to captivate the audience to where their their attention is mesmerized and hypnotized.
Yes.
I want them, their attention the whole time. I want people to move. I want people to dance. I want people to let loose, just be themselves, just get crazy and have fun.
I mean, that is the good thing to want from people when they see your band or just any show. Because uh, I've been to a lot of shows in my life. Not all of them have been real great. There's been bands that I've seen that just seemed bored up on the stage, and when the crowd sees that, it's kind of just going to be dead.
It
You know?
is. You gotta move. You gotta have high energy. You gotta move around. You gotta wonder what the
Yeah.
hell is she doing next? Is she gonna dance? Is she gonna fall down? Is she gonna like do? I don't know what she's gonna do. This girl's crazy. I don't know. It's just like it's it's like when I go on stage, it's like beast mode. It's like your shadow. There's your light side, your shadow side. A lot of people say in the spiritual realm or whatever, but it's like almost when you get up on stage, you let that beast mode out of you that you normally keep inside. You're like, rawr, that rawness, and it's
Yeah.
just that's when you actually put all your passion into something and you release it on stage, people will feel that energy. They
Yep.
will
one Hundred
feel
percent.
100%.
100%. That's exactly what I want from bands when I see them live too. I want to see them releasing just as much as the crowd is, because when you see that, you know that they're about everything that they say they are and their passion for it, the words that the singer's seeing, the just the whole band. So when I see that, I'm dialed in for the whole set. I don't get on my phone a whole lot these days anymore. I might snap a couple of pictures for each band that I see, and then I try and keep it in my pocket after that.
Yeah.
So, because the memories are in here anyways. um, to start wrapping up, though, I stole this next question from a colleague of mine that also does a podcast. Um, it gets a lot of really funny reactions from people, but with Rotten Cotton Candy, and this might have an obvious answer. If you could describe the band as a food or a beverage or both, what would you pick?
Sour Patch Kids, like rotten cotton candy.
Okay.
Sweet, salty, sour. Sweet, salty, sour.
Yeah.
It's just like, what is that? It's the candy that punches you in your face.
Yeah, and then it's sweet afterwards.
Yeah.
No, that's a good one. I like that. And then I guess the next question, the last question, is there anything else that you would like to tell the people that watch this later on about Rotten Cotton Candy that you haven't said already? Like maybe something that you want to announce or anything at all. It could be anything.
I want y'all, if y'all are watching us right now, please go follow us on Facebook. Please go follow us on Instagram. We don't have our official website right now. We are on Bandcamp. Rotten Cotton Candy Bands is how you can find us. That's on Facebook and Instagram. Rotten Cotton Candy Band. Please follow us. We also have a YouTube that we recently posted the live version of Bleed at our debut at Reno's Chop Shop that is on our YouTube channel. We would appreciate all the follows and we appreciate you watching this and your time. Thank you so much.
Yes. Thank you for coming on again, Keri. I think it's been a really great chat. Really thankful for Jacob again for getting me in contact with you. I'm very excited for the future of Rotten Cotton Candy. I can't wait to hear the new music. And hopefully for the people that watch this, they find their way to your socials and like you, like those pages and let you know where they found you and what they like about your music. Because my ultimate goal with this for anything, if I could even get one person to like the pages of who I'm talking with, I've done my part of this.
Thank you so
So
much for having us, Will.
yeah. So gonna wrap this up. As soon as I hit in stream, it's gonna be available on YouTube to share around. I don't edit these; it's in the raw, 100%. All the little tongue twisters and wandering thought gets left in. But yeah, I've had a lot of fun. Thanks for
Yes.
coming on. Around the time that the EP comes out, please reach out to me, and I could bring you guys back on. Maybe more of you could come in and talk about it, and we'll do it again.
Sounds like a blast. Thank you so much.
All right. You have a good rest of your day.
You too. Bye.